Hey guys, thank you for joining us again. So I'm going to show you how to install the GB1000, which is the GNet battery pack for dash cams. This is a Ford Explorer 2020. Now we've seen a lot of people using fuse taps and stuff like that. Obviously we don't all believe in the fuse taps and they don't work well, especially when you're installing a battery. With the battery you want to have a heavy duty wire properly, make sure nothing is gonna cause any problems in the vehicle. This is a 2020 push button Ford Explorer, so any feedback to the vehicle can cause damage, can cause issues, and you start seeing vehicles coming back with problems. So all our connections, obviously we solder them. We don't use any tap-ons, or we don't use any butt connectors. Everything is soldered. I'm gonna show you what we've done. So the GPack battery, I'll show you the battery. So the GPack battery has two ways that it can be connected. So way number one, you can connect it to power only, power and ground. And in the setting of the battery, you're gonna basically put the setting that you are connected to battery only, and you do a voltage check. So you can set up the battery to check the voltage of the vehicle at a specific voltage to turn off and stop charging, and only output. If you go that method, I would choose the 12.7 option, which means when the battery sees that the vehicle is at 12.7 and lower, it will stop charging from the vehicle and start running the camera independently. Most vehicles, when you turn the ignition off, will be lower than that. So pretty much as soon as you turn the ignition off, the battery will detect it. That way you don't have to find accessory in the vehicle. Some vehicles, BMWs, Mercedes, even this vehicle, sometimes the ignition is a bit more tricky to find, or accessory. And not just that, many times it's only ignition sense. Now if you want to have it more accurate, you can have the battery connected in a second method, which means connecting the main power and then connecting the ignition sense, in this case the red wire, making sure that the battery knows that the ignition turned off, and running the camera without the ignition. In your battery settings, you're going to turn off the battery option to ACC, and that way the battery pack is looking for power on this wire. When this wire doesn't have power anymore, it will immediately stop charging and just run the camera. Now in this case we did do it with the ignition sense, because of the camera we are using, the GNet, has the option to be connected directly, but also has the option to be connected with a ignition wire, which will put it in parking mode much faster than the waiting time. In this vehicle, the ignition is actually ignition sense. And what does that mean? It means that this is not something that you want to put any load on it. Any feedback on it can cause damage to the vehicle, or even keeping the ignition on, draining the vehicle battery. So the way to convert ignition sense to a true ignition is by using a relay. And what you do, you basically connect the relay to the source and output, and you're using the ignition only to trigger the relay on and off. So we've got the power here directly from the vehicle with a 40 amp factory fuse, and then we put our 20 amp fuse for our battery pack. Make sure your circuit is protected also, and we have of course the 3 amp fuses that are protecting our camera lines, and the relay is basically doing for us the ignition. Again, no fuse taps. The fuse box is just here. We can use fuse taps, but that will not be good. Even if the camera was not with a battery pack, even in direct, never use fuse taps. If you can have it done properly, have all the wires. As I said, solder the wires, make sure you do it correctly. If you need the ignition trigger and it's a vehicle that is a push button, use the relay to make sure it's ignition. You make sure it's a true ignition and you're not triggering or feedbacking everything to the vehicle. For more videos of how to do, you can always find us at Car System Installation. Subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time. Have a good day.